Alright, still recording. Don't think about nothing. Um, I have been listening to the Frostpunk 2 OST Anger on loop for the entirety of today. As such, I have decided that I need to fist fight like demons and monsters and win. Um, so basically, I'm making this video as a way to like explore this idea in a way. I'm gonna take a sip of water real quick. I recorded a Darkest Dungeon 2 filler video that I was gonna upload, and then I just didn't feel like doing that at all. So it's still in my files that I don't know, have up after this or something. Basically, as I sip more water, I got to thinking. It's a dangerous thing to leave me to do. Um, what would a world actually look like if monsters were something you had to contend with constantly? Because obviously it wouldn't just be our world, but monsters happen to be dropped in, as happens with a lot of pieces of media I see where they don't really take into consideration how monster dens and nests and dragon migratory patterns would affect the world, because obviously that's a lot to take into. Also, I ate pizza today, and my throat's very sore from all the acid and stuff, so if I puke, I don't know, I'll figure it out. Alright, cool. But, I figured that, like, hey, this would probably be something cool to talk about with my half-formed ideas. I didn't really map out my plan all too well, but I didn't really care enough to map out my plan all too well, so, hey, what you get is what you get. If you care that much, put in comments and I will respond and we'll workshop in the comments, because I think that's fun. But, on to the actual topic at hand. Like I stated, cursorily, in, like I stated in a cursory manner, I will be discussing things on how monsters impact your world building. This is not me doing world building for monsters, as I do not have like art to go with what I'm saying, nor is my art good. I am not prone to drawing very often. As such, it wouldn't be helpful anyway. So if you opened up this video hoping to get insight into how to world build, how to do creature design for like monsters and stuff, this is not the video for you. Go watch someone else. Instead, we're talking about the impact monsters could have on your existing worlds. This is also not really like world building monsters, as in like, oh, I'm doing world building content and dropping lore tidbits on these cool monsters in my world. No, I'm gonna try to focus on it from like, you're writing a story that has monsters in it. How does that affect your world? Just felt like that'd be a good idea to mention that right now. Stuff I will be mentioning will be in the description, maybe should be there rather. Anyway, as I yawn. Ugh. Anyway, where should I start with? Well, despite what I just said, we should actually talk about what kind of monsters are in your world. Again, not going into making them, just going into what kind of monsters are in your world, and of course their abundance. What do I mean by this? Well, dragons are a pretty basic starting point for this. We all love our dragons. Everybody loves dragons, wyverns, worms, and drakes, right? And all the distinctions there lie within, because admittedly, they're fun. They're fun to talk about. We all love the idea of these big fuck off lizards that spew fire. Whether or not they're sentient or not is, beyond the point right now. Take a sip of water. But many worlds enjoy the usage of dragons because they're a very big, imposing threat that everybody knows about. When you say dragon in your head, you kind of immediately go, I know what that is. I understand what a dragon is. I know how it functions. I know how it works. I know it has a hoard of gold and it spews fire at me. It's a big, leathery, sort of scaled bastard with wings. But what we don't often consider, well, I mean, I don't want to say it like that. I mean, pretty often. So, if you want some world building and creature design, go to open up another YouTube tab, and then in the search bar, put in Sawyer Lee, I believe. Let me just double check, even though I know it is true. Sawyer Lee. He is the guy behind the Dragon Slayer's Codex, which I think is very fun. I've been following this for for about 9 months now. Uh, is that true? Or I've been following for a year. I've been following for about a year. It's a very I am looking into getting the book, but like, I'm hesitant to buy anything ever. Um, what was I saying? Right. I've been following for like a year, and this guy's like world building stuff, and the design of these dragons is, quite frankly, fucking amazing. As I try not to yawn, and I fought it off. Alongside how humanity has changed as a result of it, he'll mention other creatures in these videos and how they interact with the dragons, or rather, how the dragons interact with them, and a few other things. So it's just like, oh man, it's all so fun. It's all so great. I have been loving all of it, and I recommend it highly. It's very good content. All revolving around dragons, which are something you'll see very often in predominantly fantasy stories, but with how beloved dragons are, I see them a lot with contemporary fiction, right? And urban fantasy too, but I mean, urban fantasy is mostly just like smut with werewolves and vampires, so not super often. I hate vampires, but you already knew that. I'm a little tired, so I won't go on my weird rage-filled rants as much. Not that we're not going to have tangents and weird rambles, but I mean, hey, this one might be a bit more focused on the actual topics at hand. Um, Yawning again. Ugh. So, how many dragons are there? Is it just this one nebulous species of dragon? You know, if it fits the description, it is a dragon, and they can interbreed with each other in varying sizes and all sorts of things like that? Or is it something more like the Dragon Slayer Codex, where they are an entire, I want to say clade is the word, and they have different species and subfactions within themselves, which, implies a greater, sort of wider, like, thing, both in world building and in narrative. But also, for the sakes of the point I'm making right now, this implies there's a fuck ton of them, which means the people, characters of your story, are going to be pretty used to dragons, or at least wary of dragons, right? Hmm. And that will affect your story in a few ways. I'll get into that better with cultures. Well, I mean, there's no reason not to get into it now, but I want to finish this point I'm making. Beyond there being a fuck ton of dragons, we must then consider what a dragon can do. There is the obvious and terrifying breath weapon that dragons possess, the flame that comes along with it. And then in a lot of stories, there's other elements such as ice and acid and poison breath, even occasionally hypnotics, as in just like drugging you. And I am missing a few, but that's fine. My favorite conceptually is tar, or more like a velvet worm's like sticky, like s- snot spray. What actually do they shoot at? Slime spray, basically, is my favorite conceptually. But alongside the fearsome fire weapon or breath weapon that anybody encountering them would have to be very aware of, and the way to identify it there within, dragons are capable of flight. Flight is a terrifying power to give to any creature, especially main characters. The ability to have such unhindered mobility in an axis usually devoid of obstacles, trees being the only exception. Very tired today as well. The ability to have such uncapped mobility in an axis that is very devoid of any sort of obstacles or people intruding is, quite frankly, fucking amazing. Dragons being hypermobile, usually speaking, is an incredible boon towards them, making the way they will making the way they will introduce themselves into their plot A, unique, B, opens up avenues for them to do it far more often, compared to maybe some other creatures, like more aquatic based creatures, where it is all focused on the ocean or lakes or swamps, whatever. But flying monsters generally have a larger sort of presence because of their ability to just show up out of, frankly, nowhere. And then you go along with the ideas such as migratory patterns, right? How often and in which areas and what abundances at what times of year they will move, and where do they move to? Is it just nesting habit, or are they going on a migration? Right? There are other monsters too, maybe like a more communally focused monster, such as a goblin, that is more cunning and sets, sort of traps and ambushes, things like that. I already mentioned aquatic horrors, the most popular, famous, or what have you, being a siren. I am kind of tired of seeing sirens in stories because, like, I don't know how to make their trope fun anymore. What do I mean by that? Ugh. Ugh. I don't have any caffeine. I don't usually like enjoy caffeine. The only caffeinated beverages I drink are specifically Cokes. All the other sodas I get are non-caffeinated. So I usually persist with naps, of which I had a 3 hour long nap today. I don't know why I'm so tired. Um, today's been an off day. I don't know how to explain it better. These past 2 months have been just full of off days, man. I think it's catching up with me. Uh, Whatever. Point I'm making is I don't tend to enjoy sirens in stories because sirens are a pretty cut and dry sort of creature. It is what you see is what you get. Or rather, what you don't see is what you get, which is they're a bait and switch monster, but once you've seen the bait and switch, you get it. That's why I'm sick of mimics, because, like, yeah, the first time you see a mimic is cool, but they're everywhere in fantasy now, and I can't escape them. I don't find mimics especially enjoyable anymore, especially when you consider they are a solution to a problem that is no longer being faced. Early editions of D&D, or rather, Gary Gygax introduced mimics because he was sick of his party members avoiding combat entirely and just focusing on the loot, taking the ideas of discretion as the better part of valor to heart, and not fighting anything and just skipping towards the chests, which is why he made it so this is an unavoidable fight if you want loot. This is not an issue that happens anymore as such. I don't see the need for mimics especially well anymore. That's not the right wordage, but you get what I'm saying. Likewise with sirens. Not to the same degree, of course, because sirens do a different thing. But I've seen their bait, I know their switch, I ignore it. I see a beautiful woman laying on some rocks singing her enchanted tunes. I cover my ears, I close my eyes, I ignore her. I hear the desperate begging of a woman overboard, even though we're nowhere near port. I cover my ears, I look away, and I don't go near the bow, or the edges of the ship, or whatever. Right? But, you can have other aquatic horrors as well. Krakens, I think, are still fun. Leviathans, I think, are still fun. SCP-3700 is two leviathans in the ocean in a perpetual combat yearly to dictate the stability of the oceans. The Atlantic, I believe. That was off the dome. Let me look it up. Fuck yeah, baby. Well, it's in the North Sea, actually. But fuck yeah, baby. I got that right. Go read 3700. It is actually very fun. It's a big monster fight story, but we like big monster fight stories, so it's not bad. And it does like have some nice world building you can frankly just steal. Unironically, just take that and dress it up all pretty. Um, and then you have ambush predators, right? It's basically, I'm not going to go through every single classification of monster because we'd be here for fucking ages, and this is not a monster world building video. Consider what monsters you're putting in, how many monsters there are above, and first and foremost is the word I'm looking for. What kind of monsters are they? How do they operate? How many? And then that should influence your choices on the future things we'll bring up during this video, which is why I felt it was prudent to mention it now. This will not be the same for story to story. This will not even be the same for kind of monster to kind of monster. But get that in stone right here and right now in order to help you better prepare your world for the future things you will talk about. Because that matters a lot for plots. And of course world building, but this is not creature design. Let's talk about kingdoms and nomadic because that will be a nice segue into cultures afterwards. Now, when we think of fantasy, we usually think of a medieval Iron Age setting, a Western Eurocentric perspective as well. And I'm not here to admonish anybody. It is a nice, fitting setting for just about every fantasy story. I say just about because that's the operating word here because, hey, I understand exceptions happen. Don't be an ass about it, alright? But that's not the point right now. Covering my bases isn't the okay. What's kind of the point right now? Um, shouldn't look at that right now. Toss my phone aside. Um, when we think of fantasy stories, and indeed fantasy stories with big monsters, we'll likely end up thinking of a medieval Iron Age setting, where you are a fortified walled city with castles and keeps, with farmland watched and patrolled by guards on horseback with pole arms, right? Where the main city has all sorts of guard watchtowers and its own smaller wall and things like that, magical wards and whatnot. But that's not the point right now. But would it exist like that in your world? Would it be a good idea to have this stagnant, big, very obviously non-naturally forming area that's boxed in for your people to survive in? If your world has an abundance of monsters that fly and large and ones that burrow that are large, I say no because that only hinders you to have this big stagnant stone city, right? If you get what I'm trying to like get at right now, of kingdoms would form in very vastly different ways if there were huge swaths of monsters and like this wasteland full of them. Because I don't think that's the proper. Obviously, except whatever. Point is, I'm saying bullshit. It's up to you to listen or not. I don't think that's generally speaking the proper response to there is monstrous activity in this area. That being said, I am absolutely definitely 110 fucking percent guilty of this. I adore entrenching. I think the best offense is an impermeable defense. Take and hold tactics, baby. Let them dull their blades on my walls, and then when they go back to camp to sharpen it again, we will have advanced a mile, and we will sink our teeth into the dirt and never let go. Trench tunnels, sandbag walls to like be the early defense for the actual proper wooden ramparts that are only there before we can get the stonemasons in. I don't believe defense is a bad idea. However, a lot of these worlds have, like I said, large burrowing monsters, or more sneaky infiltration style monsters, or flying monsters that having this sort of defense is not the greatest idea because you're out in the open. Instead, it should be sequestered away on a mountain or a, I don't want to say a valley, on a mountain or a cliff face, right? Or in a cave structure. Bunkers, baby, bunkers. Have miles of impermeable maintenance shafts as tunnels. Have people live off and copy. I have a weird fucking I don't know whatever fuck it. I have a weird hard on for just defense. Entrench, entrench, entrench. Dig in, dig in, dig in. We will be immovable, for we need to be. But conversely, I also think nomadic cultures are cool. Not as cool as defense, of course, because while I appreciate Genghis Khan for protecting the Silk Road, what am I talking about? I don't believe that at all. I enjoy having a community that I don't need to pack up constantly. But this might be necessary. Why is that? This is because I'm gonna sneeze, but that's not the real reason. With these large monsters, okay, it went away, that's nice. With these large monsters chasing down all sorts of prey, I presume the monsters in your world are predators because, to exact a threat upon the main characters. Because of the large abundance of monsters constantly eating prey, you're going to need to move with the prey as they migrate and herd to protect themselves from predators. And then we'll get into animal husbandry and how that is affected later. And in fact, Sawyer Lee even has a video on it. Not a nomadic culture, right? They're also very entrenched. It's the... Where is this? I opened up using my phone and saw some weird ass shorts. I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? It's the video on... Oh, just outright called How Sheep Evolved to Survive Dragons. It was a shockingly enjoyable watch. It helps that I like the man's voice, I'm going to be honest with you. And of course, I love the man's art. But it was a shockingly enjoyable video to the same quality, I would fully say to the same quality of his video that where he covers the different dragon species. Like, I fully think you should watch that one. It is great. My teeth feel weird. Yeah. Um, but right, this isn't a reasonable response to the issues faced with constant threat from monsters chasing away all the good prey, and needing to dedicate a large swath of open area to farm only makes you a vulnerable target. So nomadic style cultures would be a very good response to a world like this, admittedly. Not so extreme as to be like a Mongol one-to-one, but you can definitely look into it for inspiration, all sorts of mountainous steppe cultures and things like that. Because that would, I mean, that's fair. I don't see why that wouldn't be an option. You may be thinking, well, it wouldn't be an option because they're making themselves vulnerable to monsters, right? Not really. Nomads don't just plop tents down wherever. They actually do put them down in areas of like, or I guess, the point is, in your world, they can put them down in areas where like they can hide themselves, sequester away, or just have trained combatants, like a warrior caste, more like a guard caste, a warrior caste to protect them from this specifically, more focused on maybe, say, defense, right? Shield, I don't want to say shield walls, but like shield walls and pikes, as opposed to like, swords and, well, that's it. Or, pick them up before they can get too close. Large dedication on ranged combat. Large focus on ranged combat. Ugh. Or, and then I immediately forgot what I was gonna say. I was thinking about it during shield walls. What was I going to say? Huh. Damn it, that's gonna bother me for the rest of the night. Okay, give me like 2 minutes to think. Uh, what the fuck is... Okay, let me just retrace myself real quick. Shield walls as a response. I don't remember. Welp, I will have to move on anyway, so just move on now. 2 minutes haven't passed, but fuck it, we're moving on. Um, right, have a warrior caste that is very respected, but like, maybe not coveted, right? Because then you'll just end up having the whole, oh hey, we just want to kill everybody idea of cultures, but those are like lame as fuck. Rather, I don't tend to enjoy them. Uh, that just might be a me thing though. Like, the whole, oh hey, we'll just fucking the stupid orc culture again. Right? How I haven't have issues with that sometimes. Oh, my fucking my back. Fuck. Ow. You gotta straighten them. Check your guys' posture. Fix your fucking posture. Right? Have drink water. Water specifically, and have a nice meal. Believe me, you'll need it. The fuck was I saying? Nomads. Um, and then even like right, if so, they can still be because when I say nomads, you assume that I'm talking about like small little huts. No, they could even like burrow themselves, right? I mentioned prior like digging a small pit and then putting a like tarp over it would be so like spider hole homes or like little hobbit hovel homes would also be a pretty neat response. And to cover the top, they could have like a um a thick slab of wood, either made on site or carried with them. Because technically, if you're making a little hovel home, that's the only part of your house you need, the trap door. And then they like cover it with soil and little ferns, or like pack it in, right? Like weave the roots into the little furrows in the wood to have a natural hidden little sequester themselves inside. That's a pretty cool response, no? That's a pretty cool idea, mixing in with the whole defense with nomadic cultures. That was a nice sound. Nice. Uh, I clapped both my fists together. So, combining the allure of both nomad culture and the idea of like a one solid defensible point to stage yourselves in, very well with each other, and then still have the whole we're following our goats or deer or whatever food we eat and foraging along the way. And maybe they could even have small little farmlands, say, hit a fast growing root vegetables or tubers or something of the sort, right? It's up to you to decide later. Point I'm making is this is a more wide perspective on how cultures would deal with having these external threats that then shapes the way they live, be it kingdoms, be it nomadic, be it a mixture of the two in whatever quantity you have, but consider it beyond just the typical walled city with keeps, because I don't think that's a good response in a world such as this. All because of the pressures the monsters are putting onto your society. Monster, beasts, dragons, whatever the fuck you want to call them. How would the cultures respond, as we're going to move on to the culture itself specifically? I mentioned in one of the videos that, and I stole this from Sawyer Lee, the Icelanders. They have this cool thing going on where their defense from, and watch this content by the way, where their defense from the dragons is constant loud noises, music, right? Like loud opera songs, because the dragons are intimidated by the constant loud blaring noise. I don't remember if he said this or if I gassed at myself into believing he said this, but something along the lines of interpreting it like a dragon's challenge call that never goes silent, which would be fucking frightening for a dragon, as well as just being loud or low or whatever enough to disrupt their senses and irritate them and make them back off. But I do remember, specified, that in this culture there are specific songs written for these specific dragons. I don't remember what he called them in actuality, but there are specific songs written by the Icelanders to be played only in the event of warding off a dragon attack, which is a pretty neat idea that there are like, it's almost like a royal, like a king's royal song, but it's a defense against predators, right? So this would be a culture that is very like open to the idea of making lots of noise all the time, celebrations and all that. And I think even specified that too, like their culture does embrace musical aspects a lot more easily. But consider that. The way they Oh God, that was bad. Hold on. I'm not gonna puke today. I'm not gonna do this tonight. We're fighting it off. Ugh. Okay, I win. I always win. I better always win. I hate vomiting. I don't have the body mass for it. Less than 100 pounds still. Um, uh, was it? What was I? That fucked me up bad. That fucked me up bad. What the fuck was I? Celebrations. Um, you're because of this openness towards music, right? You're in this culture. We're now workshopping off this man's ideas. In this, culture you have that emphasizes a lot loud noises, songs, all sorts of celebration that not only helps keep spirits high, but literally keeps away monsters, being a positive feedback loop. They would probably have reason to celebrate as much as they can. A birthday would be an entire day's event, right? A wedding would be a week long. Because for us, a wedding is an event. We show up for the day. Maybe it's a 2 day event, right? Or a 3 day if you've got a bachelorette and bachelorette party. But maybe to consider this, right? The most extravagant weddings that most people have would be a bachelorette party ahead of time. A like what is it called? I don't remember what it's called. It's like the ceremony itself as like a day thing. And then maybe, if you really want to stretch it out, the actual ceremony, and then the party proper, where you all get together. There's all sorts of music, there's dances, right? There's tons and tons of food, and there's a whole like celebration and chutzpah towards it. At the most, if you stretch out that first ceremony to be like, I don't know, a whole fucking day for some reason, it would be a 3 day long wedding. In a culture like this, where we adore all sorts of music and lights and feasting all the time, keep the spirits high, keep the music flowing, keep them out, a wedding would be a week long. It would be a series of extravagant, like music played up, lights multicolored, adorning everything, incense wafting through the air, constant dancing till your feet are about to fucking fall off, and it would be amazing. Not to mention the fucking food, dude. To keep your energy up, keep you happy. That would be so unique. That'd be such a unique perspective for what we have now. And then consider how this affects everything else. I wouldn't say like, festival on the weekends and all that, but, a festival for the beginning of winter and then the end of winter, one for the beginning of summer, then the end of summer. Maybe even every lunar new year or every lunar new moon or whatever arbitrary moon cycle as well. They could throw a festival because fuck it. With all the monsters tearing down and banging at our walls, wanting us to keel over dead for the reason of existence, we made it once more. Because of this emphasis on festivities, music, and having fun, quit having fun and having fun. Um, the culture probably like it would likely foster a lot more closeness with your neighbors, right? If you see what I'm saying here, because of like this whole hey, drink and be merry. I'm gonna drink water again. I'm gonna drink more water again. Yes. What was I saying? Right. Because of this whole like, oh yeah, drink and be merry, all ye who can hear me, idea within this culture, it would probably be a lot more open community. What am I saying about this? Well, it's like I live in a multi-generational household, so this is kind of my normal. Um, and then very like every month, maybe even twice a month, until I was old enough to just not want to go anymore. And then 3 years later, when I was old enough to be alone and not go, I we would see our cousins down in counties over, like all the time for like an entire day. And that was just us going over, and then they would also for like once a month, twice a month, come over. Um, and right, I was practically raised by a whole host of people, and even within my own household, my mother, my grandmother, my grandfather to an extent, and three aunts. So I was raised by. In a culture like this, where again, drink and be merry, all ye who can hear, they would probably have multi-generational households, as well as a more communal perspective to raising children. It'd be like I don't want to say packs, but like there'd be packs of kids like walking around, right, doing whatever, mostly unsupervised, because you can trust your neighbors to be like, oh yeah, that's Martha's kid, alongside alongside Jackie's twins, right? And that's fine. That'd be a sort of like a, hey, where are y'all going? Oh, we're just going to go. I don't fucking know. Watch the local arena. Y'all kids got money to get in there? Yeah, y'all kids got money for snacks? We got some. Here, take I don't know, 2 pennies or something, right? Sort of idea. Because that's like, yeah, that's Martha's kid, that's Jackie's twins, but like that's also kind of like your kids. Because you see them every day. Hell, you might even like conscript them to helping you clear out your basement with the promise of ice cream or something. Like that's sure, that's their kids. That's also kind of your kids because you see them like every week, 3 times a week usually, but at the very least every week. You're always like chatting with them. You know how their schooling is going. Like that's practically your kids in all but blood. It's just a big found family in this culture. Well, I mean, like in this area of the town, right? If you swap to, I don't want to say like enclaves, but like or clanish, but like enclaves, right? Go to another part of the town. You might not know them, but you might be more open to talking with them, stuff like that. So you see, like the painting I'm trying to paint for you. Like, sure, this is just a unique culture. Cheese underscore stick one. You're just selling me a unique culture. Yes, I am, but the reasoning behind that is monsters are attacking us. We use sound as a basis to ward them off. The sound would affect us as well, so we make it something we'd like, in this case being music. Because music is something so highly regarded in our society, because we're constantly warding off monsters with them, it extended towards the rest of our society as well. Holding a love of music, and therefore easily translated to a love of festivals, leading to a closeness with each other, leading to this situation I present to you. You see how it's all a knock-on effect because of the pressures put onto the world by the monsters, right? And you can do a few other things with that, right? If they're nomadic, it's a culture that's very dedicated to, moving about. So why not give them all sorts of mounts, right? Varying different kinds of mounts. Or if they're a stalwart isolationist culture, loyalty being stalwart isolationism, as in I'm thinking of them in the mountains again. It could be loyalty is earned but never broken. Ugh, so fucking nose pissed me off. Is that about right? Like considering again the I'm in the mountains, I am defending my point in the mountains angle. Like I said, loyalty is earned but never broken because with when the doors don't open often, who do they open for? Better be someone you love, right? Maybe that's because they're faced with something that mimics humans, or at least mimics the sounds humans make, right? Or is involved in all sorts of mind fuckery, or what have you, right? Or is an almost sentient race like goblinoids or some shit like that. Whatever. The reason is, think of how they react to these sorts of things, and then how that changes their culture, usually with different sort of festivals and celebrations. Alongside, what crest or coat of arms do they have? Because it would definitely be one of these monsters beheaded or put on a pike or what have you. That's cool. Alongside a general shift in perspective of what's an important job, farmers would be a lot more like respected if your big tracts of land are a huge fucking sign saying, hey, guy right here you can crush with your big fucking, like, punching claws. Punching claws is not at all. Guy right here you can just fucking crush the brain of with your gargantuan whiptail. Right? So, like, having the stones to do that and then constantly provide for the people would probably be like, yeah, I respect the shit out of you for doing that. Meaning, also, farmers probably be, like, paid more. Anybody who works on maintaining and repairing the heavy doors that is constantly being beset on all sides by, I don't know, whatever creatures exist, would probably be a coveted job position, one taken very seriously. You are the maintenance crew. You are the one thing keeping everything in here from being overrun by monsters. Treat that wrench or treat that uh, stonecutter's tools, I don't know what they actually are called, more important than your own fucking eyes. You only need one eye to do your work. You need both hands to do your job. Your legs, not necessary. We can wheel you around if we need, right? Because, hey, we're kind of sitting ducks. We better make sure they never breach us, be top of the line, which means what weaponry would they develop as a result? Likely cannons, likely ballistas, huachas, things like that. They wouldn't be errant night culture. They would think this through. We are here. We need them away from here. Point defense. My favorite kind of defense. Or, say it is night culture, because nights is cool. Consider the following. I don't remember where the fuck I got it from, but I thought of this idea once and thought it was the sickest shit ever. First, I cracked my back. Oh, fuck yeah, that was nice. Check your posture again, folks. Make sure you're sitting upright. Um, Consider the following. As they fight with dragons or werebears or just large boars, whatever, it's a little squadron, or maybe even one guy if this guy's real fucking skilled. Squadron of, let's say, 3, because that's an easy number to visualize. The front man holds not a shield, but instead a large standard, adorned with all sorts of bright colors, boasting various things of the kingdom he comes from. To his sides are, I don't know, crossbowmen or swordsmen or spearmen, doesn't matter. Point is, point guard is walking right up there, lightly armored, no weapon to hold whatsoever, this large, bright standard, and is walking right in front, open to see, to this monster. And then they start waving it around. They start bellowing. They start cheering. They're making noise. They're slamming it around. They're even saying poor things about that thing's mother. Oh my god! Who knew she was a whore? And naturally, this pisses off the monster, and it goes to charge at this little shrieking thing holding a large flapping stick with bright, annoying ass colors. And then, using the standard as a bit of leverage, as a pole to like swing about, not pole dancing, as a lever to use like pole vaulters more like. They're doing constant dances, dipping and ducking and sliding all around and leaping over with this pole, constantly having it be twirling and in motion, keeping it in front of the monster's face so it can't see either its sidelines or right in front of it, making it have to do all these sloppy motions, not knowing what the fuck is happening. I'm being blinded by this huge fucking cloth. Get it out of my face. What the fuck is wrong with you? Occasionally beating it across the face with the fucking thing. It has iron studs on it to reinforce it, of course. And constantly spinning it all around him, covering the body, his own body, with the cloth in order to not allow the monster to see where he's about to step next. This sort of idea. Basically, bullfighting with this thing, with no saber in the other hand, because he's using both hands for a massive standard, keeping the attention all on me, 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 instead of my boys, my boys, my boys, who are closing in for the very corralled, very baited monster, blasting at them with, I don't know, their crossbows, or just poking the fuck out of them, and assaulting it with a hail of harpoons and javelins until it falls over dead. I want you to write that. Genuinely, I want you to... Fuck it. I don't like doing this, but in this case, I want to see. I presume my audience is like people interested in writing. Can you make me a small little paragraph scene like... No, a few paragraphs of a scene like that I just described? Because I think it's very cool. I'll offer up my own when this goes up. I'll put it in the comments, right? And I'll pin and heart the one I like the most, as incentive for y'all to do it. I just want to see what we can do. And I'll do it first. I'll embarrass myself first. I'll put it out there. But consider that as an idea for the culture these monsters breed. It does not breed, right, the hardiest, widest man with the strongest arms who can carry the biggest axe. No, it carries the flexible, lithe motherfucker who can get the fuck out of the way of the claws and teeth, as well as cooperation with each other. They need to trust that he will not trip and fall or be killed, otherwise they will be seen. They need to trust that thing's attention is on him the whole time, and he needs to trust they can take it out before anything bad happens to him. If you see what I'm saying? That's a unique culture in a fighting perspective. Which means all of their arena fights, all their gladiatorial fights, would be all sorts of weird, elegant dance shit, right? Constantly, sidestepping and swaying to and fro to an imaginary or very real beat. Maybe even emphasizing like capes when dueling, to like Batman cape parry, whatever the fuck it is. I don't know. I didn't play the Arkham games. See what I'm saying? Because that's cool as fuck, and I like that. And if you don't like that, I don't know what's wrong with you. But you see how that also shifts technological advancement? I'm not wearing big, heavy bits of plate mail. Is it plate mail? Yeah, plate mail. We are just fucking around, having fun with it, I guess is a better way to put it. So I absolutely think gunpowder should exist in these settings, because I absolutely think gunpowder should exist in like fucking every setting, because I like gunpowder. I am hungry. Why? I had 3 slices of pizza. I'm not gonna eat tomorrow. Fuck this shit. Where's my water? Here it is. Oh, it's pissing me off. I'm hungry. Oh, teeth feel weird. Anyway, population would be very different. That much is incredibly obvious given, hey, monsters on the prowl. It'll pretty much, just generally speaking, be smaller. Not only because, hey, monsters are killing people, but also because farming and animal rearing, because animals require food, would be a lot harder. I'm assuming your worlds have a lot of monsters, by the way. Would be a lot harder because of the sheer amount of monsters we have to contend with, making arable farmland something hard to keep protected, meaning unless we have like artificial light through magical means or what have you, or magitech means or steampunk means, we're not really able to make indoor grow beds. And if we end up finding some way to make indoor grow beds, they would likely have to be in very tightly controlled spaces, as in small spaces. So like hanging shelves full of, I don't know, beans or something. I think, yeah, bean sprouts and gourds, as opposed to tall stalks of corn or fruit trees, right? Or they would be, and then same for animal husbandry. Animals need a large amount of land to live in, so what could live in the least amount? Probably chickens, right? Which is good because that's a source of eggs. And of course poultry, but and like it completely ignore fishing. I mean not completely ignore fishing, but like fishing probably wouldn't be the answer because fish would also be a source of nutrition for A, sea monsters, B, semi-aquatic monsters, C, monsters willing to get wet a little bit for the sake of food, and D, going out there in your fishing trawlers makes you a huge target. So what bounties can be reaped from the ocean instead? Seaweed, kelp, and all sorts of assorted aquatic plant life, as well as clams and mussels. You can farm clams and mussels. You set up in the posts, on posts, in areas that will be affected by high and but not so much by low tide. Hanging posts with ropes dangling between them, and then between the rope dangling between them, ropes that dangle down to the seafloor, and mussels will accumulate on that. Mussels, barnacles, oysters, and clams, all sorts of different bivalve mollusks? Question mark. I think that's correct. That you can then collect at your leisure and consume. And then they can probably do something with the shells, melt down to mortar or what have you. But the point is, don't look at it from the perspective of wheat and corn, pork and beef, because there's just no room for that here. There just is no room for wheat and corn, pork and beef, because the land dedicated to wheat and corn is better spent doing something else or just being unused due to the attention it would draw to you. And well, if we can't grow wheat and corn, we sure as shit can't, rear uh, pork and beef. Pigs require high caloric sources of food. They cannot graze. They need mass amounts of good food, like corn, like apples, like acorns, like truffles. Cows need large paddocks of grass to graze in, on top of bulls and other bovines being big, dangerous motherfuckers, so we wouldn't even get them domesticated in the first place. So we wouldn't be able to, like, a bison is not going to be fucking reared in a world like this. Because bison would have to change dramatically and be real fucking territorial and aggressive. Right? You see the point I'm making here is like farming, animal husbandry, complete swap. Technological advancement would either be stunted or grow in a different angle. I am not the guy to ask about that. I'm not the guy that knows about that, right? Find that knowledge elsewhere, would you kindly? I don't know how this actually goes outside of just like, hey, it wouldn't be the same. Please don't write it like it's the same, right? Especially, like, again, technological advancement, farming is technology. We advance it in different ways. The plow would not be made. Um, Caravans would need to be made a lot differently. They would not be, or rather, I don't think there would be horse-drawn wagons, as the horses and the wagons are a huge fucking target. Instead, it would probably be a lot more like dog sledding over in the Arctic regions, right? It's pulled by four smaller creatures, and it's a sled, low to the ground, compact, and probably more silent than an axle. I don't know about that, truthfully. But like a specialized, or maybe just like a wheeled cart, right? It's smaller, it's a less noticeable target, and the animals that we're using to pull it require less, like grazing or whatnot, and are also probably not even really a snack to monsters, so it's fine to use them as such. Like, see, that's one example. If the world has flying creatures, hot air balloons are never going to be made. It's fine. It's fine. Ugh. 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 Nothing actually happened. I just retched, so nothing came up. Oh wow, that was bad. I choked on water and everything almost came crashing down. Okay, we're gonna speed up the rest of this because I'm having a bad night. As followers, domestication. This is specifically towards monsters. It's up to you. I personally am sick of monsters being domesticated. How to Train a Dragon is an exception, right? That's a children's media, right? You're always gonna have like, oh, they're really sweet the whole time. I'm kind of sick of seeing it. I just don't find it as fun. It also fundamentally misunderstands how domestication works. The monsters we trust. Fuck me, what's the video? Monsters we trust. With, yeah, the monsters we trust with our lives. A video made by Curious Archives. Go watch it. Right? It's delightful. Apparently, a lot of their other stuff is delightful. I have not seen it, but from what I'm looking at, it's a lot of world building stuff. So I mean, hey, might be good. Wait, no, I've seen Moldy World Building, which I loved. Yeah, go check this place out. But the monsters we trust with our lives is a video regarding domestication, the perception of wild animals and things like that. A great video to watch if you're going to go for this domestication angle. I recommend it highly. Even if you're not with this for this domestication angle, A, check your posture. B, also it's just a great fun time to watch it. I'm serious about that. Check your posture, fix your back, folks. It's nothing to scoff at. Weaving it into your plots. How do you actually weave in the effect of monsters in your plots? Well, your main character could be a monster tracker by trade. I don't mean they go out and they track monsters to hunt. I mean they track monsters to monitor. Like an I always want to say ecologist. That is a stalker faction. Like an environmentalist. That is the word. Their whole deal is to follow and monitor different monsters. Monster species, rather. They are there to ensure they see how many there are. Is it their migratory times? Are they adhering to their migratory times as we predict? Are they currently suffering a, I don't know, disease or anything of the sort? Because to understand your monster is incredibly important and can immediately be politicized to leverage this information with your other fellow cultures. Right? Consider that, for example. Or they're a tanner or a leather worker, and monster hide is very prized, especially these monsters. They saw the bounty listed and they thought, fuck, it's really tempting. And your whole story could be them gearing up to finally kill the monster. And then it could be either, dramatic or overdramatic, but I think the idea of them killing it and being dissatisfied is a lot more of an interesting ending than them killing it and feeling triumph. I don't know why, I just like that in my head. Um, how do you weave it into your plots? By making it a part of everyday life, frankly, right? This is just the world they live in. They would constantly mention by name, like other species of monster, or by nickname, or things like that, or events where a monster slaughtered a town as like a huge fucking tragedy. Or they would use it in casual conversation as idioms, right? Like we say blind as a bat. They would say X like a Y. You know, X being adjective, Y being noun. It just how do you weave it into your world? By having it be part of your everyday just existence, quite frankly. Alright, my wheelhouse, kind of. How does it affect trade relations and relations in general? When there are monsters where people don't live, as I sip water again, that one's finished. When, oh, when monsters exist where humans or elves or whatever do not, how does it affect trade? Immensely. I already mentioned caravans would likely not be viable, as such we must convert to dog sleds. If there are dragons, aerial maneuverability is not the game. If there aren't, however, hot air balloons are the shit. Are there a large amount of sea monsters? Fuck. We can't ignore naval trade. We frankly literally just cannot ignore sea-based trade or river-based trade. How do we instead ensure it can be as safe as possible and minimize our losses? How are we able to trade within our communities? How expensive is basic food? Because making food is a little bit difficult when arable land is a fucking premium, right? How can we easily get access to the valuable materials we need from over there? How can we promise city-states protection? How can we associate ourselves with another area so far away when we cannot ensure either proper safe travel or being able to meet face to face? These are problems your world must address because monsters would change shit dramatically. Traveling would be almost unheard of. If you have a wanderlust, you are suicidal, right? If you see what I'm trying to say. Like, do not take it lightly how much having a large amount of monsters shifts the world. Because it would shift the world dramatically. Because none of this is normal for us. It is for them. How have they adapted? Do they have fucking... Have they carved miles of miles of miles of miles of spider tunnels beneath the ground? Do they have tram systems? Teleportation, if this is magically inclined? All sorts of things like that. Magic is a convenient solution, but of course try to restrict your usage of or limitations on magic. Anyway, thank you for watching this. I do recommend that you all do that little thing I mentioned where you in the comments put down that little shit of world building, because I think that's very much fun. I apologize for ending this voting very quickly. I am nauseous. I bid you all a great night. I will try not to vomit. Fix your posture, eat healthily, drink water, and I will see you next time.